Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to our Friday edition video, where today I'm going to be featuring the Tier 9 British battleship, the Lion. Now, before we dive more into the ship, this was a ship I actually had to do some historical digging on, because I didn't remember if this ship was one that actually ever existed, if it was just a project British battleship, because I just never remembered this ship serving or this class of battleship ever serving during World War II. And so, just to share a brief history line on the ship, is that this was the Lion class, was part of 6 fast battleships designed for the Royal Navy in the late 1930s. They were a larger, improved version of the preceding King George V class with 16-inch or 6mm guns. Only 2 of them were laid down before the Second World War began in September 1939, and the third was ordered during the war, but their construction was suspended shortly afterwards. The design was modified in light of the war experience in 1942, but the 2 ships already begun were scrapped later in the year. So of the 6 ordered, all 6 were canceled. So unfortunately, this ship never fully existed, I guess I should say, in serving during World War II. But alas, here she is alive in World of Warships in a slightly different, altered design, even from the ships that were already laid down and working on before World War II. So Wargaming, I think that they may have made some minor tweaks to the ship, but I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to actually look more into it. So let's just talk about some things regarding from the WoW's wiki, some just things in general about the ship. The guns, the hull, the gunfire control system, the maneuverability, all those things get upgraded. It's important to note that recently Wargaming buffed both the Monarch and the Lion. They extended the range of the Lion by a kilometer or something, I can't quite remember. And then they buffed the Sigma, which is a likelihood chance of the shells landing in the center of where you're aiming, from 1.8 to 1.85. So it's kind of interesting because I feel like that was a buff for this line, probably long overdue with how long these ships have been in the game. And so I'm kind of wondering if they're going to be releasing or announcing a super British battleship soon, a super Conqueror. Oh my gosh. But anyhow, so with the guns, you can upgrade from 406s to 419s, and giving you greater HE shell and AP shell damage. Your chance of fire also increased from 46 to 48%. These AP damage, maximum AP shell damage with these guns, I have the upgraded ones mounted. The 419s can do 13,000, where the 406s do 12,600. So it's not a huge step up. In terms of the hull, that's what you're going to want to upgrade first. You go from 58,600 hit points to 67,900. You also, I think, you get a slight buff to your AA. It is a pricey one to research, but you just want to go for the hull first. Just because of having those additional hit points, almost additional 10,000, is going to keep you alive in the battle for longer. Your gunfire control system, your range goes from 19.2 to 21.1, and then you have that's about 2.6 million purchase price to upgrade to that. And then your propulsion system, you go from 120,000 to 130,000 horsepower, meaning your maximum speed will go from 28 knots to 29.5 knots. So that is a welcome increase. In terms of the ship overall, Lion, I say, is, I mean, she's a decent Tier 9 battleship. I've been playing and grinding some more battleship lines lately in the game, and I just feel like, my first battleship line was the Iowa, going up to Montana. But in terms of the tech tree, so far I feel like I've not played a better tech tree battleship than the Iowa. But I don't want to go more into that. But Lion is okay. Sometimes you'll find her dispersion rather lacking, especially at range. I find she's a really good mid-range battleship. And so here we have on the flank, we've lost our Schlieffen, who got a little aggro. I mean, he did good and he killed the Z46, which is great, so now we don't have to worry about destroyer on this flank, but at the cost of his life. But I'm setting up for a kiting position to go off this island, because I'm pretty certain that the Brest is going to be coming down the 10 line, and I just featured the ship not too long ago, and it's really good at pushing flanks if you work that outer edge, so that's what I'm expecting this player to do. But also, we have a GK, we have a Napoli, we also have a Tirpitz to deal with, and so it's just myself, Doom, and the Benham, which is a destroyer you do not want to push into with the 16 torpedoes, and then the Napoli, or sorry, did I say Napoli? It's the mains B, if I can read the mini-map correctly. So being able to reverse this island actually means I get to go dark for a brief amount of time. So let's talk about the armament and consumables of the ship, then we'll talk a little bit more about Lion. Here you actually get to see, when we talk about the main guns, look at how much side I have to show to get that forward turret off. When I zoom out here, you can get a better idea. So you get to show a decent amount of side to be able to get all the turrets off. So you have to be mindful of that. I took a bit of a gamble there to fire all the guns at the Brest, because the GK could be shooting down at me from the 9 line, which I'm looking that way. Then there's the Tirpitz. So you just have to be mindful, as we took a Citadel there in the rear. We'll look at the armor layout of the Lion tomorrow. But you just have to be mindful when you're trying to get all your guns off. You can see it's actually that second forward turret that has the worst firing angle because of the forward superstructure. But I really want to focus on the Brest, because it's continuing to push, and I'm actually going to go ahead and switch to the armor piercing. I'm not too concerned with the Tirpitz, because it's Tirpitz, it's German dispersion at longer range, so I don't feel like I'll be too punished here. We get some non-pins there when the Brest fires at us, so that's rather nice. So the HE is really well. The AP also works really well when you're able to utilize it. So here we only get 3,600, only one of those 9 guns actually hit, even though he's so close. And then also with the main guns, I have had the main turrets of the Lion, and playing it, I've already grinded up to the Conqueror. They get knocked out. So we'll look at the armor of the main turrets as well, but in my experience, these guns, they can get knocked out. It may be worth taking preventative maintenance if you are a Lion fan, just because in my experience I've had these guns knocked out multiple times, and we'll talk a little bit more about why that is in tomorrow's upgrade commander build video of the Lion. But the HE is really nice. It doesn't disappoint in my opinion, because you have a really good fire chance, 48% when you upgrade, 46% on the 406s, but with these 419s we have a 48% chance of causing fire that we can buff even further. So you're often going to be finding yourself with the Lion shooting HE more so than the AP, and I really want to focus on trying to knock this Brest out. And here already we're on our 7th fire. Our Napoli is pushing in, being aggro, because we want to get the Brest down before he disengages and tries to go dark here. But the HE does perform well. At times I find the AP won't do as much as I want it to do, or at longer ranges you're just better off with the HE in my opinion. With the AP maybe becomes a little bit more relevant as we get into 8th fire there. Maybe the AP becomes more relevant at like mid-range, at say 15 kilometers and closer, when you do have some nice broad-siding battleships and cruisers in particularly. With the HE, you will just completely yoink destroyers if they get caught out too close to you, if you're able to land a good HE salvo, just because the HE damage is greater with these 419s than the 406s. You go from 6,900 to 7,200 per gun. And in my opinion, Lion works really well when you are able to be this kiting HE spamming Battleship. So that's what we're doing here to the GK. We want to start accelerating, trying to get more in front of his nose because you can see he's angled. Some secondaries are coming at us, but not all of them. So we still have to just be mindful here because I don't want to take too much damage. So this kiting style works really well. I don't want to show off too much of my side of my ship with the GK pushing us so closely. So I just take the other two guns and I fire them at the Napoli, in which we get no hits, by the way. So just that range, the dispersion you're going to find is rather lacking at times. But enough with that. Lion does get a super heal, which now I'm going to go ahead and use. We could have let it go even lower, but because I'm on fire and because I'm still eating secondary damage from the GK, to me it's not a big deal to go ahead and pop it because I know I'm going to get the full extent out of the heal. So we'll go ahead and preemptively activate that. So you can, it's kind of a precursor to the Conqueror, with Conqueror's very strong super heal. So note that you do have a much stronger heal than on the Monarch if my memory serves correctly. So we take the GK out with the 11th fire that we have set. And now we're focusing on this Napoli. He's kind of the biggest threat next. I'm not too worried about the Turpits because I have my clanmate back there with the Venom. I'm going to be throwing a lot of torpedoes at him. Let's see. Yeah, so you have super heal, and then you get a spotter plane. The spotter plane will be, I mean, yeah, extend your range out, but don't be surprised if you get a lot of car washes or all your guns miss, or you get 1 of 9 shells land. That's just something that you have to be need to be mindful of when you're dealing with long range shots. I have just found Lion is more satisfying at the mid range 15 kilometers and underneath. Otherwise, it can be rather dissatisfying sometimes, or unsatisfying with having most of your shells not landing. So Lion's strength really comes from her strong chance of setting fires and fire damage. So she's a bit more of a farming type of battleship than maybe somewhat those like knockout blows. You might be more familiar with that with something like the Iowa, just because of her accuracy with those 16-inch guns are pretty strong. So now we have the Napolis pushing into us, but I was waiting for Doom's torpedoes to land before I fired myself. I didn't want to alter the course of the Turpits in any way. But we're going to turn and kite out here because Napoli's pushing into us, and he has torpedoes, which I'm sure he's dying to get off here because my mains is low, Chkalov is also low. So we need to kind of go more into this kiting position now. So from the Wales Wiki, in terms of the pros and cons of the ship, talks about great armor piercing shell penetration combined with the short fuse AP, which makes her very dangerous to cruisers. That is definitely true. At about 9-10 kilometers, I completely obliterated a Worcester with 3/4 of his health left. I've also yoinked a Minotaur charging at me, which I'll probably have a short funny video on, but he was trying to rush me and get those torpedoes off onto me, and I just aimed low enough, and with that short fuse AP, it really helps making sure that you're not just getting a bunch of overpins. High chances of fire with high explosive shells, excellent handling characteristics. She does handle well for a tier 9 battleship, I can say that. Great concealment. Concealment is really strong, so it looks like we're rocking 13.4 kilometer concealment at this point in time, and so that's really helpful, especially when you're not the strongest tier 9 battleship. So being able to disengage with that good concealment is really nice here. And here we use a spotter plane because the Turpits is kiting away, and I want to be able to have greater chances of landing the shells. And then those shells, this shell volley, I was like, dang, like that is just looks such tight dispersion at this range. So it's interesting, but still car wash. Decent belt armor that protects the Citadel when well angled. So that is very nice, especially when you have to show off. You're trying to get all guns on target because you have to show so much side to do so. Decent anti-air weaponry provides more than adequate self-defense from enemy bomber aircraft. I'm going to say that only does well enough against tier 8s. Against tier 10s, it is you're not going to do a whole lot. Access to specialized repair teams consumable found on Royal Navy cruisers that can heal 75% of the normal penetration damage. Cons: lowest health pool of all Tier 9 battleships, as well as weaker torpedo defense system. So that's why you really want to get to the hull upgrade first when you pick up this line, just because it really is a challenge. Armor scheme is vulnerable to broadside hits from enemy battleships and cruiser HE shells. You don't have the strongest deck armor as well. So you just, again, she's not a strong, sturdy battleship, so she kind of feels difficult sometimes to play when you're trying to get more of that mid-range of that 15 kilometers and beneath. Her size and length make dropping torpedoes difficult, or dodging torpedoes difficult. That is true. I think that's accurate for most Tier 9 battleships, I would say, in my opinion. Average top speed for the tier, not fast enough to chase some ships. Also, I'd say that's obvious, especially if you're dealing with cruisers and destroyers. So overall, Lion is... she's a pleasant experience, I would say, when you're going up from the Tier 8 to Tier 10 and reaching the Conqueror. Again, she's just an okay battleship. You're going to find a lot of your strength comes from the chance of starting fires. I mean, we're already on 15 fires and we're still burning the turrets, and I'm kind of hoping I burn the turrets out here, but I'm not entirely sure. So that's the strength. Your 8 short fuse AP, that's a strength, so you're not likely to overpin cruisers. You have access to that specialized repair party, super heal, which is really nice. So it can bring you back from the dead to half health, which, you know, it's nice, especially when you take so much pin damage, when you can heal 75% of penetration, normal penetration damage back. One of the other weaknesses that's not on here, which I want to bring up, is if you noticed when I noted earlier that the breast citadeled us from the stern, and that is, if you look at the stern of the ship, it is completely flat. It is a very flat butt of the ship. So players who are wise enough can take advantage if you're trying to run away. You just aim at that flat butt, flat stern of the Lion, and you can, if you have strong enough, large enough guns, good enough shell velocity, you can punch through and just citadel the Lion and kiting away. So you just have to be mindful of that. Here you get to see example a bit of the forward firing turret angles as we try to help our teammates out. We really need the mains to fall back because he's on such perilously low health. But the forward firing angles are not terrible, but they're not great either. They're just okay. The rear turrets, you can kind of see we're almost to its limit because of the rear part of the superstructure. So that's just something you have to be mindful of. I know I haven't talked much about this battle, more just about the ship as a whole. But now I'm trying to move up to take pressure off my teammates, because I'm pretty sure that the Hornet probably wants to kill the mains. But if I go wide here, when we last located the Hornet, he was on the right side of this island. So my goal is actually what you'll see happen here, as we set another fire that's only going to burn for 5 seconds, so 17 fires now, is that we're going to push the Hornet to reverse and back up, which I'm pretty sure he's probably using his, he might be using autopilot. Yeah, he's using autopilot, unless it's just on reverse because the ship's still turning. To make him reverse, and then we're going to psych him out, and then we're going to go left, so we catch him on the back side of the island, if he does end up doing that. Our CV is continuing to drop fighters for the mains, which is great because he doesn't have much health left, and he's ignoring me going for the mains, which, I mean, if you want to buy some time, you definitely want to go for the low health ship. The Petropavlovsk was dealing with a Puerto Rico who does really well on our team. So he's just pretty much out of the battle because he got pushed all the way up into A1. So we're not even going to see him again, even though it's been a minute or 3 minutes since he was last picked up on the map. And here's the Hornet, and so just to team, we go hee because he's dead. So yeah, that was the real reason I showed this replay, is because we killed the carrier at the end with less than 20 seconds on the clock. And then maybe in the dying seconds you can see a little bit more of the AA at work. But Lion's an okay ship. I think she's a much better tier 9 ship than the Azumo. I hated playing the Azumo. But Iowa, because Iowa is Iowa, still holds pretty good place in my mind just because of how well of a tier 9 tech tree battleship she is. So we end with 163,000 damage and setting 17 fires. Pick up General Offensive, Confederate, Dreadnought with those repair parties that bring us back from the dead, essentially. And that becomes even more stronger when we're talking about the Conqueror. So definitely HE spamming battleship, but don't underestimate her short fused AP, especially when you're dealing with broadside cruisers, because you can completely obliterate them if an enemy cruiser allows you to do so. We're going to place second on the team with 1,974 base XP, with the Puerto Rico taking the top place. So he did a really good job in dealing with the Petropavlovsk, and I think the Petro even complimented him during the battle. Here you can see we actually took over 2 million potential damage. Damage upon spotting was only 12,000. Most of our damage you can see was done to the breast because he was the threat, and then as well as the GK, Tirpitz, and the Hornet there at the end. And with premium counts for a tech tree ship, I wasn't running the best economic credit bonuses, but we landed with 300,000 credits at profit. So I'm glad that Wargaming did buff the ship, giving it a little bit better Sigma, giving a little bit more range, but I'm more excited that they gave it a better Sigma value of 1.85 rather than 1.8. I could say they probably could have gone to 1.9 even, but you don't want to make a ship too strong. So tomorrow we'll do an upgraded commander build video of the Lion, so I hope that you check that out. And if you liked today's video, I hope you consider liking the video. If you didn't for some reason, give it a thumbs down. This helps me to know there's something I can improve upon, as well as comment and subscribe if you do want to see more of these type of videos and the upgrade commander build video that I'll be doing tomorrow, so you don't miss it. So until next time, take care.